First Nations Agriculture by Spencer, Casey, Haley, Donovan, and Katie. When the settlers started to arrive in large numbers, they assumed that agriculture would be the easiest way to make food as well as money. They thought that because the First Nations people did not farm the land they had, they were uncivilized. The government wanted the First Nations people to become farmers. Only a small amount of land given to the First Nations people was arable land. Because the First Nations people were not allowed to get loans because of being wards of their state, they were not able to get into agriculture. The First Nations people had little capital for the starting of farms, meaning they had no way to start their own farms. The traditional ways of the First Nations people differed from the new farming that the Euros wanted them to do. Okay. While First Nations people used to focus on hunting and gathering, the government said that this took more land than farming the land. Because the survivors of the smallpox epidemic were still trying to get back on their feet, there was little money or food for them to eat. While hunting and gathering was less work, it took more land in order to do it, but farming took more labor and less land. Farming takes a large amount of water to grow crops. Because the First Nations people were considered wards of the state, they were unable to get approved for a water license. A water license is needed, then a large supply of water is needed for some reason. What? There were laws that were supposed to prevent claiming of lands that were burial grounds. They were rarely enforced or followed. First Nations people were involved in agriculture in three main ways: commercial farming, subsistence farming, and working as farm laborers. With the Europeans and their need for beer, the hops industry became a large part of the way of First Nations people could be involved in farming, as growing hops took a large amount of labor, especially during the harvest, which allowed the First Nations people to make more money. Because of the large amount of people needed, there was a large diversity in the tribes, which allowed them to trade the goods they would make. Cattle ranching came into BC's interior from the U.S. in the 1860s. Many First Nations people found that ranching fit their lifestyle due to having lots of knowledge about riding horses, breeding, etc. The government would sell the land for ranching cheaply, and because of this, few First Nations people were able to run the ranches successfully. The end.